like Mary Poppins.
Is he cool?
Hell yeah, he's cool.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all!
Psst, check out my Patreon.
Okay, so I may as well just get right to the point with this one. This week we have an episode where the professor takes shit from some random lady who has no right to dictate how he chooses to parent his kids, and guilt trips him into having her raise them as proper ladies. Even though the entire idea of what proper etiquette is a subjective concept and has been throughout all of history, but I guess some people just can't respect the lifestyles of others. Miss Deb O Nair, as she's called, she's basically this stuck-up hag who believes that women should act like their English ancestors, despite the fact that it's an outdated custom that, quite frankly, serves no practical purpose and has for the most part been erased in modern culture today because it was a means of restriction back then, and god, it pisses me off. Suffice to say, I've never liked episodes like this. Episodes where some stranger comes into the characters' lives and dictates how they should act and behave. People like this don't have a right to warrant how others act, and thank goodness this episode gets that right with the moral of this episode. Look, I understand bad parenting. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of parents out there who treat their children like shit and clearly have proven themselves unfit to raise a child. Swearing at their kids, hitting them, leaving them unsupervised. I see it way more than I'd like to, but Deb O Nair is a different story altogether. An abusive situation is one thing, but just invading someone's normal, everyday life is completely disrespectful and uncalled for. And to be clear, I'm not knocking the episode here. The moral conclusion that this one draws is a correct message to get out of the situation, and I commend it for doing something right. But for all intents and purposes, I need to come clean and just say, I will never get enjoyment out of an episode like this. I just do not like watching episodes that have a character kinda like this barge in and demand people change to fit their own personal worldview. At least with Mommy Fierce, Sedusa wasn't forcing the girls to change, she was just making them do chores and go to bed early, restricting them in a parental way rather than a lifestyle or personality way. They were still allowed to be themselves, they just had to stay inside cleaning the house instead of going outside and fighting bad guys. I only bring that up because I know some people would probably be willing to say, hey Shadow, what about Mommy Fierce? Well, that's my reason why I kind of am okay with that one versus a situation like Deb O Nair, which we're about to get into. That's just my personal taste though, so hey, I'm sure plenty of people out there can tolerate this kind of episode, and more power to you. I just don't find the idea or character to be my cup of tea.
Hey cutie, do you want to join me for lunch?
So it's a lovely day in Townsville and the Powerpuff Girls are fighting Mojo Jojo and his giant robot ox. Or as he refers to himself in the episode, Mojo the Kid. Not to be confused with Mojo the Kid from West in Pieces. Either the reboot already knew this existed and chose to ignore it, or this was a complete coincidence. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and go with the latter. Anyway, Mojo's been on a Western movie kick lately, so he's dressed like a cowboy, and then the four of them proceed to duke it out with each other while the professor watches from the sidelines next to Miss Deb O Nair. She is aghast by the girl's behavior, what with Buttercup performing an act particularly gross and unnecessary, and demands to know where their mother is.
Where is their mother?
Oh, it's just us.
Well, no wonder they're like that.
Oh, hey, fuck you.
Boom, that one line right there already makes me detest this character. Which I suppose means it's working. Clearly we're not supposed to agree with this discount Mary Poppins, and the episode makes that clear right off the bat, what with her narrow-minded worldview. Also, the term Deb O Nair refers to the sophisticated charm of a man, so isn't the naming choice for this woman a bit unfitting? It was likely just chosen because the name sounded good enough without paying any actual attention to the official definition of the word. I mean, not only that, but the show also manages to call her the Esquire of Etiquette, except that that doesn't really work either. In the British context, it is yet another term that specifically applies to males, but in the US context, which doesn't really correspond to one specific gender, is applicable to lawyers. But, newsflash, this woman isn't a lawyer. She's a nanny. It's not the same thing.
Their overly aggressive behavior?
Oh yes, how dare these females act tough? How dare they actively try to save the day? That's not what little girls should be doing. They're supposed to be passive. Ugh, God, it's Girls Gone Mild all over again. Well, anyways, she wanders off after telling the professor how she'd be able to whip them into shape, and the episode transitions to later that day where he sits the girls down so that he can talk to them. You know, at the end of the day, despite how shitty of a character he is, this much I can agree with. The relationship the professor has with his daughters is significant for its presentation of a single parent, a father, no less. One of my favorite aspects of the original show is how the professor is one of the best dad characters in animation history, and treats his daughters the way any good parent would despite the lack of a mother in their life. I love that dynamic, and even though the reboot's version of the professor has a lot of shortcomings, at the very least I'm grateful that they never introduced a mother character. So Deb O What's-Her-Face shows up at the door and introduces herself to the girls, telling them that she's going to help them become proper young ladies. This entails dressing up the characters in these clearly outdated get-ups and practicing a more formal speech dialect. I don't know about you, but despite the fact that the girls clearly shouldn't be in these dresses, Bubbles' hair and Blossom's bow have never looked more normal in this show's run. Despite hating these outfits, the girls actually run to the professor to complain, but he reacts in a way that makes them question everything. So the girls interpret this as, let's do this for the professor because it will make him happy, and go along with whatever this O Nair lady has to say. Next, we get a montage, which acts as a musical number in which the girls in O Nair sing about the splendors of proper etiquette.
A lady should not speak her mind, it's rude and it's not wise. It bothers other people, so you must apologize.
I'm sorry?
Now you're getting it.
Okay, I realize I'm not a female, so I can't speak from the perspective of one. But I am very surprised that Debbie is okay with this. Unless she's been brainwashed into believing that this is just the way the world works, in which case I don't know where she's been living for the past couple of decades, but that's clearly not how it is. I know if I were ever in such a position, I would be fuming because of a situation like this, and I sympathize with anyone who has ever had to experience this in their life. Again, I'm all about equality here. Everyone deserves the same treatment and respect from one another, regardless of what your characteristics are. Well, anyways, about 30 seconds later, the song ends and the girls are experts on being proper now because, and I quote, "We're proper ladies and we act a proper way, and because of this lovely song, we did it in a day." Well, at least they're self-aware, I guess. Anyways, as Yzma would say,
It's dinner time.
yeah, so the girls say sorry and after you and giggle a bunch, and it catches the professor off guard, leading to some miscommunication amongst them due to the lack of their usual selves. Debbie over here, on the other hand, thinks she did a great job and compliments them on a job well done. Soon after that, the phone rings and they head out to do battle with Mojo the Kid for a second time.
Townsville is mine!
Oh, you need to take that up with our new sheriff.
No, what? I'm the new sheriff!
Oh, I knew you looked familiar.
Well, that wasn't the worst joke in the world. So the girls are acting so proper that they can't actually accomplish anything against Mojo's giant mechanical bull that he somehow managed to rebuild in a day after breaking out of prison in the exact same day. And don't question it. They apologize and ask Mojo politely if they can punch him, and he just sends them flying the way any supervillain would, or in the case of Bubbles, incinerating her to pieces. The professor picks up on this and gets angry at Debbie for turning his girls into helpless shells of their former selves, all the while she proclaims that she's done everything right and the girls are doing just fine, despite the fact that she can very clearly see Mojo igniting them directly in front of her very eyes.
We're sorry.
I beg your pardon, I made them proper.
So yeah, I guess despite mocking the professor earlier for his carelessness and allowing the girls to get beat up and bruised, she allowed the exact same thing to happen in a more passive way, and yet now it's okay because they're proper. Give me a break. This woman doesn't know shit, and that clearly shows when Mojo picks up on her conversation with the professor.
You made them this way?
No, but wait, I didn't.
What? What do you mean you didn't? Why are you stuttering? You just said you did. Now she's backpedaling on this when the supervillain calls her out on it, but not when it's the parent of the girls you taught? Where is this turnaround coming from? She just doubled down, but now she's taking it back? What a poorly written character. While Mojo suggests that she'd make a great villain, the professor goes to his girls and tells them that they can stop with the fancy dresses and ladylike behavior, and that he's sorry he made them think he wanted them to be this way. It's really just that he feared he was raising them wrong, something that I could understand any parent having at some point in their lives. But this experience helped him realize that he was actually doing a perfectly fine job all along, and this gets the girls to snap right out of it. Again, despite me not enjoying this entire premise, the message is something I wholeheartedly agree with. Mojo barges in on this sincere moment to threaten destroying them with all these different lasers and explosives, but go figure, the show decides to make comedy the higher priority over threatening character actions.
Nothing can possibly stop Mojo now, especially when I am taking my sweet time, pressing this here easily accessible button that will finally destroy the Powerpuff.
Like, I get what this was going for, but just... no. Just make Mojo go for pushing the button and have the mud hit him faster. There's no reason to draw this out because it's not clever, it's not saying anything profound, it's just acknowledging, oh hey, watch as we stall for time and absolutely nothing will interrupt me, I swear, hardy har har, I'm so smart. And I bet you can't guess who threw the mud. Why, it was Debbie, of course. She beats up Mojo and apologizes for leading the girls astray. Wait, what?
You girls taught me something I should have realized a long time ago.
How? When? Just a second ago you were bent on defending yourself. Okay, I need to point out shit writing for you guys. Alright, so let's go through the cause and effect of what just happened. Debbie made the girls act like proper ladies, so the girls become incapable of hurting Mojo, and he burns them alive, which causes the professor to complain that Debbie ruined them, which makes her defend her own actions, and then Mojo hears this so he thanks her for it, while the professor runs over and tells the girls they can be normal, which makes Mojo threaten to kill them, leading to Debbie throwing the mud and learning her lesson. Okay, so what in there taught her she was wrong? Mojo saying she'd make a great villain? Hey, you'd make a great villain. Oh, I was wrong. I was so terribly wrong. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. No, that's atrocious writing. That's not how you develop a character and make them see the error of their ways. It's not even implied that she knows who Mojo is. For all I can tell, she's never seen this guy before in her life, so how does she know he's the bad guy? Between this rapid turnaround and painfully dumb climax, it's as if the message of this episode was written first and everything else was just slapped together afterwards. Huh. Kinda reminds you of something, doesn't it? I guess after this, the episode just ends with the girls punching Mojo and using his mechanical bull against him, so I guess you could say the episode does end with a bang. But yeah, like I said, not really a fan of this type of character or episode, and despite me agreeing with the moral it was trying to preach, once again, the process in getting the character to realize that moral completely fell on its face. The entire character that they attempt to introduce and solve the problem through is terribly written all around, so I deem this episode a failure. Not as bad as a certain other episode I know. It's kind of pathetic that even when the show magically gets a lesson right, it still finds a way to fail all the same. It's actually kind of sad, really. You know who was a proper female figure in the girls' lives in the original? Miss Keene. Oh, and Miss Bellum too. It's a shame we never get to see them in this show, but then again, they'd probably be ruined like I've said before, so really it's a blessing in disguise. Oh, and the title Deb O Nair also sucks. It's just the name of the character with no creative spin to it. I don't know, this show doesn't get any sympathy from me, and I'm not about to change how I feel about it anytime soon. Even though it's not the worst thing to come out of the reboot, you can skip this one all the same.